you're back on the SportsMax zone. The draw for the quarterfinals of the 2022-2023 UEFA Champions League was held early on Friday in Geneva, Switzerland. The matchups will see, and of course, quarterfinal 1, Real Madrid up against Chelsea. In quarterfinal 2, we'll be seeing Inter Milan playing Benfica. Quarterfinal 3, Manchester City versus Bayern Munich. And in quarterfinal 4, AC Milan face Napoli. Well, some blockbuster fixtures there, and I'm going to start by asking both of my co-hosts which one stands out for them. So Lance Whitaker, you're up first. Which
City
one?
Bayern.
Yeah.
City Bayern.
What about it though? I mean, I have vested interest in the match. What about a City Bayern Munich match makes you say that?
Well, the first thing is that I'm intrigued about Pep Guardiola's inability up to this point to win a European title with Manchester City, because he is so highly regarded as a coach. Manchester City for 5 or 6 years now have had a roster that qualifies them to win the UEFA Champions League, and they haven't.
Yeah.
So, you know, I am watching very closely Man City's trek towards this UEFA title. And, you know, I'm a German fan, so I always like Bayern Munich.
Yes.
They are steady. They are among the most consistent teams in UEFA Champions League football. So that, for me, is the tie that grabs my interest the most. Chelsea, Real Madrid also looking a hot one, especially since Chelsea appear to be improving a bit.
Yeah, just one more before I move along to Ricardo. A lot of discussion surrounding Erling Haaland, what he has been doing when it comes to goals, 10 Champions League goals so far. Do you think that he will be the X factor to ensure that Pep Guardiola gets this one title that has escaped him forever?
I think so, for sure. He tried this week to diffuse that argument and suggested that Man City's inability to win the UEFA Champions League up to this point had nothing to do with a lack of goals. It was their conceding goals that was the problem. So he sort of deflected the value of Erling Haaland in their bid for the title. But there's no question that this man is a monster in front of goal. And any coach that has him as a striker will feel enhanced by his team's ability to win titles. And there's no question in my mind that if Man City wins the UEFA Champions League this year, then Haaland would have had to play an important role in that.
Yes. Ricardo, your turn now. Which of the fixtures?
Yeah, definitely. There's no doubt that this Manchester City-Bayern Munich clash is the big clash of the quarter-final round. Last time these two teams met in the Champions League, and you spoke about stories earlier, Mariah, and this is an outstanding story because the last time these two met in the Champions League, 2014-2015, Bayern Munich was coached by Pep Guardiola.
Yes.
They met at the group stage, split those matches, both winning their home ties. Here they are now with Pep Guardiola at Manchester City, desperate for another Champions League title, desperate to take Manchester City over the line. And I think quite possibly maybe the toughest quarter-final draw. Definitely the odds makers would have been looking at Bayern and Manchester City as the two favourites coming into the quarter-final round, and they have drawn each other at this stage. It is going to be a massive quarter-final tie, and Manchester City, so desperate for the Champions League title, will have to draw on every bit of quality they have to get the better of this Bayern Munich team, because Bayern Munich have been good, and as Lance said, they've been solid, and it's expected to be exactly that against City. But this will be quite a test for both teams.
Right. And also on Friday, the quarterfinal draw for the Europa League took place. Let's take a look at this now, the matchups. So in quarterfinal 1, Manchester United will be playing Sevilla. Quarterfinal 2, Juventus, they face Sporting. And quarterfinal 3, Bayer Leverkusen up against, is this our Union Saint-Gilloise? And quarterfinal 4, Feyenoord playing AS Roma. So Manchester United are favourites for the trophy, given the draw. Team, do you agree? Do you disagree?
No,
Y'all are smiling.
No one wants to play Sevilla in the Europa League.
Why? Everybody wants to play Sevilla in the Europa League.
Really?
I think so. Sevilla hasn't been as good as we've seen them last season. This season they had a lot of blips.
They've won the title more than any other team, so there's something about the Europa League that Sevilla.
But this is a different Sevilla team. I'm sorry to cut you, but Sevilla 13th in La Liga. I had to stop you before you.
Yeah, but their teams are. We've seen Real Madrid win the UEFA Champions League some seasons when they aren't looking too hot. But when it comes to the Champions League platform, they deliver. So we're not sure if Sevilla might be that for the Europa League.
Ricardo, come on, 13th place Sevilla.
The one thing I'll say is that Manchester United cannot take Sevilla for granted. I agree with Sir Lance that sometimes in sport there can be those competitions or venues or opponents where no matter what type of form or shape you're in, when you go up against those, or when you go up in, or when you compete in particular environments, you just are able to find your best, and that could be the case for Sevilla in the Europa League. But here's the confidence that Manchester United can take. They've already beaten 2 La Liga teams, Barcelona, and they have beaten Real Betis. So in the past, some would say, well, Manchester United don't do as well against the Spanish teams. Not this season. They've beaten Barcelona, top of La Liga, and they've beaten Real Betis, doing pretty well in La Liga as well. And top five, they can take a lot of confidence going into the tie against Sevilla, but they cannot be complacent.
Yeah, that's the key word. None of the teams taking part in any of these competitions can afford to be complacent.
By the way, it's going to be a Manchester United AS Roma final. You heard it here first, right? Manchester United versus AS Roma in the final. Ten Hag versus Mourinho.
So who wins since you've gone all the way to the final?
Lance, I told you you're not a Manchester United fan.
We go to break.
But I'm asking you, you're making pronouncements, so I'm just trying to get it clear from you who will actually win, because you have made a very profound statement that these 2 teams are going to play in the final as if you're some prophet or something. So since you have gone that far, just give us the scoreline in the final as well.
Why would you even ask that question, Lance?
No, but what's
because the viewers want to know.
I would give you the scoreline if you were a betting man, but you're not.
Let's go to break, please. Thanks. Stay with SportsMax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news and entertainment.